I noticed the flame was on and the lights were lighting the way in. And we have this path that curves around, and sometimes you can take the little shortcut. But the path really was designed that way, specifically that way, for a reason. It's like your approach is not a straight line, and there's usually not a shortcut. So you have to follow the path of light in to the heart of the ashram, which is the temple. And in your own life, that following the heart. And there's so many things that trap us on our way. So many things that influence us and carry us away from the paths. You go out and then you come back in. Sort of that way. And eventually, we all come to that place in the heart. And often, one of the things that hold us back is this feeling of not being acceptable or accepted. And we put that into play. But Swami Radha said, if you're here, you have to believe that the divine has accepted you. You're in the divine temple, you have the teachings, you have the light. So when you resist that kind of actual, real, physical being in a place and say, I'm not acceptable, what are you saying to the divine? And how does that close off the heart? So, yes, we all have things to work on. We all have things to learn to the very last. But I remember after my YDC, we did a straight walk to the table. But I did it with Swami Radha, and I was doing it to see what my next step was. We all want to know that, for sure. Even before we take it or anything, like we want to know what it's going to be. And so this way of doing it was a way to really show me what I needed. And that was what I wanted to take the step for, to find out what I needed. So everything I saw was connected to that need, and Swami Radha said, asked me what I thought it was, and I tried to explain it, and she said, oh, devotion. And I said, well, I really feel that I need to be at the ashram. I just spent all this time at the ashram, and we stayed on till, as long as you could, before the kids had to go back to school. And she said, well, why would you need to go to the ashram? Why would you need to be there? I said, because I needed to learn. And she said, well, you can learn where you are. You can learn anywhere. Why do you need to go to the ashram? And finally, she said, you need to be in a place where you can talk, where your heart can be, where you can express that. You need to be with people who are talking about that. She said, even at the ashram, we start talking about the world events and worldly things. But in the end, we always come back to talking about the divine. That's where you need to be. Well, it was, at least 10 more years before I got here to live. But I kept coming every opportunity I could and keeping that connection alive. And for me, that's the whole part, is the finding ways to keep it alive, because the divine is actually searching for you. And, you keep doing the wide circle thing, and eventually, she draws you in. Eventually, like some people, takes a while, but you have to come sometime. And to think of, like, to have that opportunity, like some days I just feel overwhelmed with gratitude because this place exists and that this is available. And it's because that devotion is here. And I also remember that she said that it becomes your own. Like if you have a pair of shoes, you can tell when you slip your foot in, they're your shoes, right? Some way that you have shaped those shoes. Although everybody buys their shoes, there's, the same shoes. But you would be able to tell your shoes by that shape. And that's the kind of, she said, that's what will happen with your practices. They'll become yours. You'll wear them until they become yours and they're recognizable as yours. They're not something separate. They're yours. And when Divine Mother comes to you, she's yours. And also that whole ability of doing visualization, of doing the work that you're doing, of clearing away that space so the heart has that kind of space to allow her in. She changes. She keeps on changing because she gets closer and closer to who you are and who you can accept. And Swami Radha said, like, keep your images in the light. That's the subtlest way. But what is it in you? What is it in you that is Divine Mother? Divine, the divine spark. And so you can visualize Divine Mother as part of you. You can look through her eyes. You can listen through her ears. You can act through her hands. You can feel through your heart, her heart, your heart. Open it wider and wider. And she keeps changing, becoming more yours, more you. So there's so many different ways into the heart. Everybody has their path, but there's one that's set out by someone who knows the way. So when you follow something, when you give up your way, it becomes your way in the end. But you have to learn something and understand that and follow the directions and release what you don't need anymore. And so all of the practice is moving closer and closer. Till you become one with the divine. And everyone has their own experience of it. As you're like little spring flowers, and when it's your time to bloom, you'll be ready. And it's amazing because sometimes it gets right to the end of the chorus because still people are hanging on to firmly onto their own ideas, firmly onto the way it should be, firmly onto the rules and the regulations, but there are none. There's just her or the divine in whatever form. And you go to meet her, you take that first step. That is commitment. Once you do that, you've committed to a whole bunch of things in your life. Commit to your heart. Shivaya.